Hi, Kate.
Hi.
Welcome to our podcast.
Thank you very much. I'm really delighted to join this podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for making this recording happen at your home.
Well, you come to visit us once a year, and it's a moment we look forward to. And I think there's something wonderful about having conversations in a home, in a space that we've created at our kitchen table. Here we are.
Yes. Yeah. I'm honored to sit here, where so many talents and thinkers, philosophers, and writers, so many people visited before to have discussion with you. So, what kind of people have you welcomed here so far?
We love to welcome, first of all, friends.
Friend, yes, neighbors.
No, just friends.
Really.
Friends.
Friend.
You are a friend,
Yeah.
right? You meet somebody and you think,
Sure.
I consider this person a heart, a soul, a mind that I want to connect with. I just like something about this person. So this is a home. This is not a meeting room. This is our home.
Yes.
So I would only invite people into our home that I feel I want you to be part of my home. I want that personal connection. But we sometimes, we're sitting at a table that has usually 6 chairs around it. We can add some more. But we often have what we call kitchen conversations, where we invite maybe somebody who's written a short essay or has an idea they want to explore, and we invite 6 or 7 friends. We have a meal. Everybody reads that little essay beforehand. And then we have a very intentional discussion about it. Because a kitchen is an open, warm place where we're not here as a representative of any institution. Step away from your university, from your government job, from your corporation. Step away from any institution that you're involved in. You're here as yourself. So anything you say at the table, you're saying as yourself. And it makes it a very open space. But also we serve food, home-cooked food.
Yes.
It takes away any formalities. And we've had some wonderful conversations with friends who live in the city of Oxford, where we are. But also, one of the privileges of living in this city is that, of course, people come through from all around the world. They're often coming to the university to give lectures, to do research. So we sometimes invite them away from the grandeur of the university, come to our simple kitchen table and have really good conversation.
So before being human being, we are animal. So we are privileged to have a meal.
Yes.
Share a meal. Now, sharing a meal actually a very, very important feature for human beings as a social animal.
Yeah.
Right. So, this podcast is around ancestor, right? Yes, Roman is the author of Good Ancestor, and I'm the translator.
And I'm the wife.
Why? Yes. We are a Good Ancestor family.
Yes.
So I'm curious about your own ancestor. So I use the concept ancestor in a broader meaning. It's not just saying the blood relation, the family, but could be your teacher, could be the philosophical, or historical figure in the past who made a great influence on your thought or behavior, or whoever. So what comes up in your mind when it comes to ancestor?
So 3 things come in my mind, 3 different kinds of ancestors. I'm going to talk about blood ancestors. I think the ancestors who created the worldview in which I was raised. So it's imposed in the sense that I was born into this mindset but also chosen ancestors. So thinkers whose ideas I choose in order to escape from the worldview that I was raised in. So blood ancestors, I'm a white British woman. I'm living here in Oxford. I was raised in London, but my parents, both of them, came from a place called Derbyshire, which is further north in England. Lots of hills and valleys, a rural area. And I feel a strong connection to that place when I go back there, but my parents left in the 1960s. They were hip young kids. And so they moved to London where everything was happening. So I'm very aware that I was raised as a Londoner, and any British person can hear I have a middle-class London accent. Right? We can place people. They can hear that in my voice. Yeah, the accent. But my real ancestry is in Derbyshire. And I don't sound like that at all. So I'm aware I feel cut off a little bit because of the voice I grew up with. It's very different from actually where my ancestry comes from in England. If I go there, people there would hear me and they would think, you're not from here. And part of me wants to say, but deep down I am from here. I come from here. I also have to go back more than 2-3 generations, and as a British person, it feels incredibly important to me to recognize that I'm British and that this was a nation that had a global colonial empire. So my ancestors, if I go anywhere in the world and say, oh, I'm English or I'm British, if I go to Africa, to Asia, to Latin America, I mean, this is triggering a thought in whoever I'm meeting. Oh, you're from that empire, which dominated us, which colonized us. Yeah. So to me, this is a very heavy burden of responsibility to talk about it, to recognize it, to know that I've been raised in a country that has massively benefited from exploiting the vast majority of countries in the world. That's a privilege, as in something that you're born with. You didn't choose it, you didn't win it, it's the circumstance you're born into. And so it's very important to say, okay, I was born into this circumstance. What do I do? Now, what do I do with that? I recognize it, and then how do I take action? How do I hold that privilege responsibly? So that's a big part of the blood ancestry. Quite connected to that, being from a Western worldview, is the ancestry of ideas that I was born into. So what were we taught when we were at school?
Yes.
What's in the textbooks? Because this is the textbooks filled by the ancestors, the intellectual ancestors whose ideas have been placed at the center of my culture. When I went to university, I wanted to study economics because I thought this would teach me the mother tongue of public policy. But I didn't know much about the politics of economics. It took me a long time to realize that I didn't actually agree with, I didn't like the ancestry of intellectual ideas that I was being taught as I learned economics. Western economic mindset, which comes from, let's say, Adam Smith, John Stuart Mill, so David Ricardo.
Mainstreamers.
Very mainstream, yes. But these were the founding fathers of economics. Milton Friedman, John Maynard Keynes. I want to acknowledge that every one of them had insights and important ideas for their time. But I think all of their ideas have been ossified. They've been turned into as if this is truth and formalized in models that are still being taught today. It took me a long time to realize that the worldview that I was being taught from these intellectual ancestors, I just deeply disagree with it today. I don't think it's relevant. In fact, let me quote one of them, John Maynard Keynes, major British economist of the 20th century, deeply respected. He said, economics is the science of thinking in terms of models, joined to the art of choosing models that are relevant for the contemporary world. And I love this because he says, yes, of course, economics can be a science. You can do modeling, equations, econometrics, But what matters underneath that, the art of choosing models that are relevant to the contemporary world. And I think if John Maynard Keynes himself were alive today, he would say, why, dear economists of the West, why are you still using the models that we created 100 years ago?
Because the world has changed. So
The world
much.
has changed. And the fundamental way I'm going to say I think it's changed is that the economics that I was taught, because it was the economics of this intellectual inheritance from these ancestors, is an economics that essentially ignores the living world. It's an economics that starts on day one with the market. The first diagram students remember learning is supply and demand. So we say, welcome to economics, here's the market. And that means we're immediately focusing on price, because that is the metric of value in the market.
Yes.
So then anything that you want to make visible in the language of economics needs to be given a price to make it visible. There's nothing natural or obvious or necessary about that. It's a choice to begin the modelling there. But it was put at the centre. And if you want to talk about climate change or acid rain or a hole in the ozone layer or biodiversity loss, then in this economic language, we call it an environmental externality, because it's external to the market contract. For me, the idea that we should talk about the living world and the degradation of the living world as an environmental externality, to me, this is enough evidence that we need to change the foundations of our mindset. I sometimes joke, but only half joking, if aliens wanted to destroy humanity, they don't need to land on this planet with their space rockets and their laser guns. The aliens just need to convince us to talk about the degradation of the living world by calling it an environmental externality. And if we use that language, we will destroy ourselves anyway. So it's like an alien trick to trick humanity to destroy itself. But of course, there are no aliens here. This is our own choices inherited from our intellectual ancestors. I think if John Maynard Keynes were alive today and he was aware, he would be aware of the scale of the ecological degradation that's happening, he would be one of the first to say, it's time to choose models that are relevant for the contemporary world. We need to start economics by recognizing that the economy is a subset of the living world.
The living world.
That the goal cannot be
Biosphere.
Within the biosphere. That the goal cannot be endless GDP growth. Right? This is the goal at the heart of the mindset I've been taught to inherit.
So I imagine you might have a response from your audience that so donut economy is unrealistic, but in reality, so the mainstream the theory of economics in mainstream
Mainstream
today
economic theory, yeah.
are unrealistic
Absolutely.
given the situation on this planet.
Absolutely. So I created well, let me go back 3 steps. When I became deeply frustrated with the economics that I had been taught, and I realized that there were other ways of thinking, which we had never been presented with, I started to read all the economics that I hadn't been taught. I read ecological economics, which starts by putting the economy inside the living world. I read feminist economics, which recognizes the unpaid caring work of parents, raising children, looking after elders, no money changing hands, but it's essential for life. I read complexity economics, about thinking in systems and feedback loops and tipping points. And I realized if I could bring these and other ideas together, make new models, make new concepts that combine them, this would be the foundations for what I think could be a 21st century economics that is fit for the contemporary world. So I created the donut. It's if you think of a donut, the kind with a hole in the middle, then it's about the goal. What is the goal of the economy? We want to leave nobody in the hole in the middle falling short on the essentials of life. We want nobody to be left without the resources we need for health, education, food, water, housing, energy. But we also must live within the life-supporting systems of our planetary home. We cannot degrade this unique, delicately balanced living planet and push her out of balance. So the shape of progress is not a line of endless growth going up through the ceiling. It's about finding a dynamic balance.
Yeah.
It's a bit like the pulse of life. No one left in the hole, don't overshoot the limits. So when I present Doughnut Economics, and I'm invited to present it at places like the World Economic Forum, to the United Nations, to governments, to corporations. Sometimes people say, well, this is a lovely idea, but really, come on, this is unrealistic. To which my reply is, step back a moment, stop thinking about this quarter's financial returns. What is realistic? What is
Yes.
as a goal? What is real? Do we, for example, agree that we place a care and a value on the lives of all people? This is often codified as human rights. Do we agree that every person has a claim to meet their bare minimum needs in life? Do we agree that we are living as part of the only known planet that is alive? We don't know of any other planets that are alive in the universe. And scientists have told us that critical life-supporting systems like a stable climate and fertile soil and healthy oceans and abundant biodiversity and recharging fresh water and a protective ozone layer overhead, scientists have told us we must protect the stability of these systems so that life continues on this planet. Is it unrealistic to aim to do this? If we think it's unrealistic to aim to this, we are saying there is no option but to destroy ourselves and life on the planet. So to me, this is reality. The challenge is that we have created economic systems that have put at their center financial return and the accumulation of wealth. And these human-created designs, I believe, are in tension. They are antagonistic to, they are in conflict with the very design of life. So, which is unrealistic? The actual thermodynamics of physics and the laws of nature, or the invented human systems of finance? Which one is realistic and which is unrealistic? For me, we go with the reality of life on Earth for 3.8 billion years. We need to design economic systems that enable us to belong again on Earth. And that takes me to the chosen ancestors. For me, my chosen ancestors are those intellectual inspirations whose ideas I learned outside of the classroom. Somebody may have mentioned a book, I pick it up and it changed my worldview completely. And I feel now a privilege to be able to bring their ideas together and to channel them through what I call Doughnut Economics, but to bring them to the next generation of students who still are not being taught this. I'm also aware I'm speaking from Western mindset, but I'm also aware that Western mindset economics, the mainstream, is taught all over the world. Almost every country, if you go to university to study economics, it will be this.
Yes.
And so this isn't just a Western problem, because we've exported this mindset and made it universal.
Yes. Yeah. Shared in most of the all universities.
Yes.
Yeah. So, yes, your economics, Doughnut economy, resonates more with the people who appreciate the connection with nature, rather than the people who just are looking at the human being, and mostly in the urban city. I believe your idea far more resonates with the people in indigenous community or the people with ancestral wisdom. So how do you connect your concept doughnut economy with ancestral wisdom or indigenous community?
Great question. When I first drew the donut diagram, and it looks like a donut with the hole in the middle, I was very struck by so many people in my Western culture were really excited by this picture. They said, "Oh, now I have this picture. It brings together the social and the environmental." But also I could see it gave them a new strength, a new conviction in arguing for protecting the living world, in arguing for the rights of all people. And I realized the power of a picture, of an image. And so I then decided to explore and look at how other cultures and many indigenous and centuries, millennia-long cultures have, for themselves, made symbols of health and wealth and well-being and thriving. And I was so struck to see that time and time again, from a Zen Enso to Taoist Yin Yang, to a Maori Takarangi, to a Buddhist endless knot, a Celtic double spiral, the Indian Dharma wheel, Turtle Island medicine wheel. So many cultures independently have created a shape which is round with some sort of dynamic tension inside. And so I realized the donut diagram is tapping into, it's like an echo of something that's existed for millennia in other cultures. But this one is coming from a Western mindset. So being raised here in this mindset with growth is the goal, markets are the entry point into economics.
Let's pursue exponential.
It's exponential growth, right? If I sit from this mindset I've been raised in and look very far away, there is an indigenous cosmovision, which is based in the web of life and Gaia and the deep interdependence of all things. I think for many people in my culture, that is too far to jump. It is so different from what we've been taught. We can only observe it from very far away and think, that's just such a different worldview, but I can't jump there. Also, maybe we shouldn't jump there. I, as a white British woman, can I suddenly say I'm going to adopt a Maori worldview? That's their culture. I think we need to find it from within the roots and the memories and the possibilities of our own starting point. We need to walk our way towards it. So I've come to think of the donut. If you think of a bridge, right? On one side of the bridge is the Western mindset, and right on the other side is an indigenous cosmovision. The donut helps us cross the river by putting a foot of the bridge in the river. We can make it halfway to the donut. I can see doughnut economics. Yeah, that makes sense. That's more bringing the living world back in, and it decenters growth. Instead, we think about thriving. We think about the interdependence of living beings. And from the donut, maybe I can then see further. One of the things that's most honored me has been that elders and practitioners and thinkers from indigenous worldviews have got in touch with me and said, from where I'm sitting on the other side of the bridge, from where I'm sitting, everything that I've seen that's coming out of Western economics, this doughnut economics is the one that makes most sense. It's the closest. And so I want to engage with it so that I can also have a conversation with the Western mindset. So people are using the donut in a way to cross the bridge from both sides.
As a stepping stone.
As a stepping stone. So, for example, a wonderful Hawaiian scholar called Kamana Bima reached out to me, and he said, from our Hawaiian indigenous worldview, Aina Aloha, which means love of the land which feeds us, I want to connect with doughnut economics because it enables me to connect with the Western worldview, which is also actually being imposed upon my native island of Hawaii through colonialism. And we've had some fantastic conversations about the relationship between these ideas. So these aren't my ancestors, but they are others who are saying, I want to connect my ancestral vision with Doughnut Economics. And it's a huge honor. I feel really moved. I'm very humble and thrilled that this concept, and it even has a ridiculous name of the donut. Even despite this name, people are using it as a stepping stone to communicate with others on the other side of the river.
Yeah. But donut sounds good from the Western world. So kind of, donut is... but donut itself is very universal, and everyone, loves it.
Well,
so, yeah.
it is very universal. Some people love them. Some people hate them.
Hate them?
Some people say to me, why did you call it Doughnut Economics? This is about...
I love donut.
You love donuts. Okay, so for you it works. But some people say, why? A donut is sugary, it's fried.
Oh.
It's like the epitome of American junk food.
Yeah.
And you're talking about reconnection with nature and life. How could you call it the donut? I'll tell you, it was a coincidence. I didn't give it this name. A scientist saw the diagram and he said, oh, this is the diagram we've been missing all along. And it looks like a donut. He gave it the name and the name stuck. One real benefit of giving it this name is this. Many people are actually intimidated by economics, right? Sometimes when I meet people, they say, oh, what do you do? When I said, I'm writing a book about economics, people, they draw back and they say something like, oh, I was never very good at maths at school. So that's where a thought immediately goes. You want to talk about economics? You must be good at maths. For me, that is not at all the point. There is no maths in my book. The only numbers are the page numbers. So economics is intimidating. People think it's expert, it's specialist.
Right.
I don't know enough.
Yeah.
I can't engage. But when you call it Doughnut Economics, people look at you with a smile. Okay, this is playful. It doesn't take itself too seriously.
Yeah.
So people feel invited and they can turn up with play. And I think when we start having an economic conversation with play and color and art and expression, then everybody thinks, well, I have a place here. I have something to say. And actually, this is about my life because I am part of the economy and it influences me. And I will bring my spirit here. So it's been a very inclusive way of opening up conversations. And in different countries, people rename it. So in Turkey, they don't eat donuts, but they have a round-shaped bread called simit. So they said it's simit economy. So I love that people are reinterpreting it with their own cultural ring-shaped food. Yeah. It's always a ring-shaped food.
Yeah.
Because again, as you said at the beginning, we sit at a table, food, sharing a meal. Food connects. So we put the idea of the food, make it playful. It's not intimidating.
Yeah. That's a great idea. So, could you tell me about your answer to this question? How can we become good ancestors? So, have you ever had a conversation with Roman with this question?
So, as you know, Roman is my husband and we are partners for 20-something years. This table has been a really valuable place of many conversations about this, even when it was first an idea. And he was reading to me, maybe I want to do some work on this idea of being a good ancestor. What would it mean to write a book about this? So we've had many, many conversations about this. And I love the richness of the ways he's explored this. I'm going to share my very specific approach on it, and it comes back to the economics. Because economics is a very powerful academic discipline. Every president and prime minister has economic advisors. If you go to a conference or a policy discussion, when the economist speaks, people listen differently. And this is a dangerous power Because as I said, I think the mindset, the worldview that economics brings to the world is not even based on this planet. The planet is missing at the foundation of the design. It is not based in systems thinking, predominantly. And here, actually, I get angry. I know we shouldn't be motivated by anger, but I'm going to be honest, I do get angry. 2 days ago, I went to speak at a student conference organized by students at a university, bringing students from all over the world. And they invite me to speak. And I was talking to some of the students before, asking them, what is it like? You're studying economics in 2025. We're a quarter of the way through the 21st century. What are they teaching you? Oh, it's very mathematical, she says. It's very mathematical. Well, you can study a little bit about the environment, but you have to do a special paper to do that. It's not written in. So I find it unbearably wrong. And it makes me angry that the academic profession of economics is teaching the students of 2025, the young people who are going to be the policymakers, the business leaders, the judges, the lawyers, the journalists, the activists. They are going to be the citizens of the 21st century who shape this century. And they go to university to study a subject that should give them equipment to shape it. And they are still being taught mathematical models that I believe are based on very outdated, deep assumptions.
Unrealistic.
Deeply unrealistic, because they're not even landed on this planet. And they are paying large fees and taking on a lot of student debt to do this. This just really fires me up to show the students another. They have the right. We as an older generation have an obligation, a responsibility to push ourselves past the models that we're comfortable with, past what we are already expert in, to reach out and learn new things ourselves so that we can show them a doorway that they will go much, much further through than us. But we must at least show them that doorway. Here is systems thinking and complexity. Here is ecological economics that starts with the living world. Here is economics that's grounded in understanding energy, not money, but energy. So this really motivates me. And so for me, being a good ancestor is about showing other frameworks that I write about in Doughnut Economics, showing these to the students and saying, hey, don't let your entire mind be captured by what you have to learn to pass the exam to get the degree. Look, there's a whole other kind of economics over here. Because if we can't pass on the openness of a mindset to this rising generation that lands them on the planet, that centers human rights and for the world, not just for the people of my country or my city, but recognizing the interconnectedness of all people, we are not giving them a chance to thrive this century. And I want them to reach, say 2100 or 2200. Will we have been good ancestors in enabling them to find a mindset and a worldview that actually enables them to return to thriving because they've inherited a deeply degraded world and a deeply divided world? That, to me, is the role I particularly focus on in trying to be a good ancestor in the economics of the future.
Wow, such a powerful...
Can I ask you a question?
Please.
As I've said, it makes me angry. But I know from a Buddhist perspective, maybe I should aim not to be motivated by anger. What would you say to me?
So we are on the same flow to the same direction. But my approach is, which I recommend to you, is So anyway, we are standing here at this point, 2025. So let's start from here, right? So to start this year with a fresh emotion, fresh feeling. Let's celebrate the effort, contribution of the previous economics for the civilization for today, right?
Everything that it did to enable us to get to where we are.
Yes. So just appreciate. Thank you. Economics, all in the past. We appreciate your contribution. But it's the time to shift to the next model or next version of economics. So thank you, and let's move forward. So I observed, in the Western world. So in this occasion, people tend to critique to the past notion and concepts and models. But sometimes this approach creates conflict.
Yes.
Right. So let's start appreciation. Thank you. We appreciate your effort, but I think it's time to complete your your work. By now, it was good, but from now, let's renew the thing which is appropriate for the day tomorrow.
I very much appreciate this approach. I think I do a little bit of both. So in my book, I compare the old economic mindset, and every time I show an old idea, I at least try to show why it was valuable at the time. And then I propose. So instead of critiquing, I'm not just critiquing we need to be propositional for the future.
Sure.
So it's a mix of the two. But I'm going to take inspiration from this. And you've now made me want to literally, what would it mean to create a talk, a presentation, where the whole focus is on thanking mainstream economics for everything it gave us. I'm going to try that.
Yeah,
I'm going to thank those ancestors who were imposed upon me as a mindset. I'm going to thank them for everything that I gained. Because actually, you give me an insight here. If I hadn't had that mindset imposed upon me, I wouldn't have been spurred to find my chosen ancestors. I wouldn't have been spurred to find Herman Daly, founding father of ecological economics.
Yes.
Donella Meadows,
right.
mother of systems thinking. Janine Benyus, biomimicry thinking. I wouldn't have been spurred to gather those chosen ancestors and write my own book for the future. So I give my first thanks to the mainstream economics that I inherited.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Shoki.
Kate. Yeah. I really appreciate your participation here. All right. So, see you soon.
Back at this table, please. See you soon. Come back again.